ko mako e ko. Ki mai ki aho, he aha te me nui. He aha te me nui o te ao, maku e ki atu. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata, he. Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi nui kia koutou i tēnei rangi tinua tāhua i roto i tēnei whare puka puka mō te taone nui o Tāmaki Makaurau, he wāhi tūturu o Ngāti Hako, Ngāti Pāwa i ngā wā o mua ko tēnei te wāhi mō te awa ko Horotiu. Kia ora kia koutou mō tō aroha ki te noho i Wānganui o tēnei i tēnei rā. Ko Waiau, ko Rai o te Papa te Maunga, ko Waihau te Awa, ko Tikapa te Moana, ko Toho Rā te Waka, ko Kōtahitanga te Whare, ko Turuhia te Marae, ko Paorotunga o Kutupuna, ko Jeanine Clarkin Hou, ko Nō Taku Tamaiti, i piki ake au ki Taupo me Pairo, e noho ana au ki te Motu Ārairo, ko Waiheke Island, ko Jeanine Clarkin Hou. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please join me. That's right, you might have to all move up a little bit closer since we're just doing sharpen, aren't we? Yeah, good. So I'm really excited to have Jeanine here. She's actually got an exhibition on currently at Te Uru in Waitākere, which would invite you all to go and have a look at. How long is it on for, Jeanine?
It's on until November 20. You can go every day, but on November the Sunday the 13th, we're going to have a dance and play dress up. So keep an eye out for that.
Fantastic.
Hope to see you there.
It's always fun to do dress up. So that's sort of part of the conversation that I wanted to have with you. When the exhibition opened, we went out to the opening, and one of the things that I was made aware of that I hadn't been aware of before then, I knew Jeanine had been working and that she'd been working for about nearly 30 years.
Nearly 30 years.
Nearly 30 years. But the sort of motivation for doing what she is doing. So she's actually you're trained as in the European fashion school in Wellington, and learned how to do couture. But your choice was to make streetwear. Can you tell us how that came about?
So I'd sewed ever since I went to Brownies when I was little in high school, and revamped all my clothes and made my own ball dresses. And I never knew I'd be a designer. I wanted to be a hairdresser because they wore the best clothes. But I didn't know you could be a designer. I knew you could go and work at the sewing factory because that's what most girls in our school, they turn 15, leave, go work at the sewing factory. But I knew I didn't want to do that. And however, when I got to 20, I really worked out that you could go to fashion school. So I took myself to Wellington and learnt heaps of stuff. But when I came out, New Zealand fashion industry was still very young. You were probably the early ones in it, and World and Zambezi. But aside from that, everything was kind of factory bought and imported from overseas, and that really didn't gel with me. And when I came to Auckland, I could see all the culture, all the Samoans not even Samoans, Islanders wearing their lava-lavas to Greyland supermarket, and then you'll see like Dwali and stuff, and I couldn't see any Māori identification in the street. Unless you had a bone carving or pounamu, there was nothing aside from your skin colour to identify you as Māori. But so I really wanted to provide a way to be visually Māori and in a non-verbal way, because I was, believe it or not, chronically shy, so I just let the clothes speak.
Yep. Yeah, cool. Yeah. And so the images that are showing behind us are photos that Chris Trail, who has just escaped, took of some of Jeanine's work. This was taken for a calendar, wasn't it? A calendar of your work.
So, in the year 2000, I managed to capture a lot of the looks on a calendar with some of my friends who happened to be rongonui, well known, well heard of, in a well way, in order to be infamous. So they showed more, even though you could have clothes with Māori design on, I wanted to show what was a Māori garment. So that was more like the Rapaki, lava type Rapaki, and then I had the maro and the apron, so there's a few of them that we were able to capture at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so not only garments that have the shapes of derived from traditional dress.
Yeah.
But also you did a lot of work already with motif, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. So I collaborated with artists to provide me with imagery that pertained specifically to the clothing that I was making, because I didn't just want to put any old drawing on, and I didn't profess to be a tohunga artist, but I was very well, having gone to fashion school, I felt really confident with the clothing making, but I wasn't just going to slap any old thing on the cloth. Yeah.
Yes, and you see some of that coming through, and in fact you can see Jeanine's actually wearing a skirt, which is a print that's in one of those photos too. It's a new version of...
Yeah, so it's an updated version of the original taniko print that I used. One was supplied by Matt Choate and the other by Julie Palmer-Pengelly, so I recommissioned Julie Palmer-Pengelly to redo me one recently, which is what I've got out at the moment.
And that's part of the collection that you've got at the moment too?
Yeah, so that's like coming out when I stay home long enough to make it.
Because you've had a lot of social engagements in the last while with the exhibition. The Te Uru exhibition opened originally in Waikato, didn't it? Yeah. So very good. So I like that sort of conversation about working with someone to do the textiles, and you're doing the garments. Can you tell us about some of the other collaborations, the other ways that you've worked with people, shown with people, worked with people?
Yeah, so the artists I've worked with are Gordon Hatfield, Julie Palmer-Pengelly, Makarita Yonke, Richard Francis, but also collaborating with like the photography with Chris, and then often working with models, so there's more than just me that's putting the wairua together. That's within the clothes.
Yes, so there's a response, isn't there, by the person wearing it to the garment.
And then I became the costume designer of choice with Medinea Grey Dance, so I've done all of her costumes from 1998 till last year, which is about 10 different productions, and I also worked with Mary Jane O'Reilly for the Millennium Project, which was dressing 200 people at dawn in Gisborne. And I did in my earlier days, I did work with Theatre Stampede for Summer Shakespeare. And what I liked about doing the costume designs is I could filter through some of the keepers that I could put in my daywear collections, and or they just already liked my daywear collections, which I could then put on stage.
Yeah, so there's an exchange between performance costume and daywear, the things that you can wear.
And then the theatre stuff and dance, because dance you need a certain ability to move, so it was a great way to show the garments moving. Great.
So I'm just thinking about. I'm in awe of you because you have been doing this now for 30 years, and this is what you do. You don't have to go. You don't wait tables in order to make it happen. You've just been in Europe again. Can you tell me how you've managed that? Because I think that's one of the big questions with indigenous makers or people who are making clothing in that non-Western European space, are making clothing for themselves and for the people that they know and love. How you can do those things and still pay the rent and eat and do all the good things that you want to do in life.
Yeah, so I was lucky when I started. I was 24, so there was like some business grants and you could get assistance for 6 months, which was enough to pivot me with my first type of clothing. And then I was, that kept going. I was selling out of Hamilton, and I'd pretty much take my garments to Wellington. I'd have to take my clothes to the customer, so like having a pop-up shop at TPK in Wellington, and I'd just go make appointments through all of Wellington, and every 2 hours go to another place. So I was really taking the garments to the clients.
So taking them to corporations, to businesses,
Yes.
or to ministries?
So mostly all the ministry. I'd go to Te Kōkiri, Ministry of Health, Te Uhukai Moana, Māngai Pāho, and MOE, and also the Medical Research Centre in Newtown. So I just, over 2 days, just bounced between all of the places. Obviously the first one I went to had the best dibs, and as the suitcase went round town, the selection got less, but everyone would enjoy that, and I'd go every 3 months. So I'd just work solid and then go to sell. So that was kind of the routine I got into, and that worked well because I was basically the only one in New Zealand, maybe 2 others, and I couldn't have a shop in every town, but I could at least visit every town. I'd also went on a really big, because I created my own fashion models, especially in Hamilton. I had a lot of the LGBT people who were really creative, so they would volunteer to model for me, and we'd have fashion shows. Anyone that contacted me and found us, we would go to their town and have a fashion show, which was some of my models and some of their own community. We went to Blenheim, and they would practice for 4 weeks with their own community. I'd arrive with my suitcase of clothes and a couple of models, and would put a show on, and so that's again how I got known in every little town around the country, and doing conferences, fashion shows at different conference events, and also, so that's pretty much how I marketed and sold, along with being on supplying all the TV shows and
presenters and things too.
Presenters, and
you'll see some of them rotating through the thing, and that print was just the print that Jeanine's wearing.
But as I went on, because I started in 1994, and I don't know when the America's Cup was coming, but after a few years in Hamilton I got a bit bored with it, and I'd come to Auckland and I'd met with Pacific Sisters, and I grew towards coming here, but I planned that I would move to Auckland before the America's Cup, and that was going to make me rich. It didn't really make me rich, but I got a lot of champagne. Anyway, then I'd also, and just all the networking with different people. I had great studios, and then up until 2002, when I had Noor, I pretty much had a steady rotation of work and income, and then I took the chance to go on the DPB, and then around that time there was a lot of the competitions were starting. Pacifica had already started, and Couture was just starting, so I was able to be a mum, occasionally make some clothes and win prizes and money. And also I was still doing the costume design, so I just do high profile jobs during that time, which kept my name in the pie and a little bit of income. But for a decent period I did actually stay on the DPB, and then once I got off that and flourished again.
Fantastic.
And so now I'm just
you're game for all sorts. So your own collection, but also I would like to. Jeanine's here, and she's doing a little workshop over until 5 o'clock with us, and so perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the workshop and how that fits into your how that fits into your thinking and
So as you know from as a point of difference being a designer is to embellish your fabric. So I worked this out very early on, and so part of the workshop has been able to print your own fabric, but the other key thing which I've used a lot in my clothes is upcycling, recycled blankets, and right now it's really imperative to even more protect Papatūānuku and to have less waste going, especially textile waste, going into the landfill. And we know from going to museums and even with kowhaiwhai that textile can last hundreds of years, and so buying something cheap and throwing it out and chucking in the landfill is just really grates me, and especially as we know the textile itself can last. The design obviously didn't, and the quality of sewing obviously didn't, which is why a lot of people throw things out. So I wanted to combat a little bit of that and inspiring people to recycle their clothes or textiles into other stuff to get a little bit more of the extended use out of the fabric, and also just to create individuality and things like that.
Yeah. And so this workshop has got lino cuts, some of them that are echoed in your in the motifs on your jacket, aren't they? Yep.
So I'm wearing a patched up work shirt, just to get a little bit. I find a lot of good quality second hand shirts and patch them up. You've got Protect Pūtiki, which is a very necessary environmental cause at the moment.
On Waiheke?
Waiheke, just stopping the
marina from getting in the way of the little blue penguins, yes.
Yeah. And then when I made my masks for COVID, and I was really disturbed about the about being made wahangū, which is made to be basically shut up. So I started putting kia ora on my mask so people could still communicate while being muffed. And but over here what we've got today is I also work with a lot of rangatahi, and so they've helped me create some symbols that you can build together to create your own fabric or just decorate stuff. So I'll be over there. I've got some bits of fabric for those of you who didn't bring anything, and I can help you have a play. What I really like and is really unique about the printing, the lino printing method is just letting go of what it may come out like. This fabric I'm wearing here, you can see it down there, it's screen printed, so it's really crisp and organised, but with the screen printing you get a really naive potluck effect. It's a really hit and miss, and there's a whole lot of misses, but there's still beauty in the imperfections.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We love beauty in the imperfections. And Jeanine's looking not at all imperfect. She's looking absolutely fabulous. I always love how great you present, and you clearly still have got a little bit of wanting to be a hairdresser, haven't you? And wear the best clothes. Hey, so please join me in thanking Jeanine for sharing with us.